You're looking live at the Oklahoman's OSU pregame. Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, joined by our columnist Jenni Carlson from a parking garage somewhere in Stillwater. How's it going, Jenni?
You know what? It's really nice. It's for a parking garage. It's about 65 degrees. I'll show you some of the scene behind me. They're parking cars and they're doing some tailgating. Folks around. So yeah, lots of good stuff going on in Stillwater. It's lovely today.
The way you're leaning around the corner there, it's almost like you're staking them out, like you're spying around the corner on them. I don't think is that the USA or the UTSA team? Are they running some plays down there? It'd be a good place to watch Gundy's team's practice from right there. What do you think?
Let me see. I think these are all folks who are for the home team, but I guess maybe I can do some investigation later and see if there's any Roadrunner fans down there. I'll let you know.
Okay, either that or you're meeting Hal Holbrook in the parking garage. It's a reference for the oldsters amongst us. And then from the press box at Boone Pickens Stadium is beat writer Kyle Fredrickson, who today wrote what I thought was a splendid profile of Dax Garman. I was really surprised, Kyle, at the depths of sort of animosity towards the Garmins. We saw it when that Texas TV station came up here and did sort of their gotcha video that's now on YouTube. But you went way beyond that. Of course, you spent some time at the Dallas Morning News, so you had some background, some contacts. Talk a little bit about what you discovered and what it was like reporting this story.
Yeah, you know, I think with a story like this, you go in knowing a little bit of the backstory, knowing there are some eligibility concerns. But what I tried to do was kind of paint a picture of really what Dax had to go through. You know, it's in a situation like this, the athletic directors and the coaches don't really want to go on record on just exactly how the eligibility issues went down and who's at fault. You know, I didn't try to paint that kind of picture. But for a 16, 17-year-old kid who just wants to play football, for all these things to keep happening to him and the way the system works with, you know, these really powerful coaches and ADs and these families who've been coming up the ranks with their kids playing in these systems for so long, that was the thing that was most interesting to me, that just how this whole high school football culture fit in and how it kind of ate up the Garmin family a little bit and chewed them up and spit them out. And like you said in that video, you know, we kind of saw the lengths that these reporters would go to kind of investigate cases. And I'm not sure we'd see anything else like that anywhere else in the country than Texas, where high school football really reigns supreme.
Jenni, we saw the links that the Garmins went to, of course, also to try to find the best possible circumstance for their son, and it truly backfired. I wonder, as you read the story, did you recall sort of that whole Jones debacle? They got their playoff season wiped out by that whole deal.
Yeah, they were out of the playoffs. Read about that now that happened. That all stuff happened. Had a somewhat similar situation and had a paid for punished. Don't they? Not gonna playoff. So kind of a different situation there. But you know, I was riding up maybe John Helsley that we talked about Dax Garman at OSU. The truth is, as a walk-on, he had as much likelihood when he arrived on the team behind. Obviously, Clint Self is on now, but Wes Hunt was already on. To me, like he had every much of a likelihood to never play it down as Noah's starter, as he in the position to start. He had to go right to have this opportunity. And after you reach out, kind of want to put for it. Glad it did go well because you know Chris is to do what he wants to do, and nobody's talking bad about it. That's what it's about.
Yeah, Kyle, I was having a little bit of trouble hearing Jenni's. I was having a little bit of trouble hearing Jenni's response there. Maybe we get that worked out. But one of the things about Dax Garman is how well he played after stepping out of mothballs. For 4 or 5 years. Was anybody at OSU or is anybody else surprised by how well he played last week?
I think if anyone was surprised by anything, it wasn't necessarily the throws he was making. It was more just the poise he had. Because I think even Mike Gundy probably had some concerns about a guy like Garmin, because if you're going to sit out that long, you got to figure that adjustment back to live gameplay and being in that environment. It's a whole lot different. So I think the biggest thing that was surprising, or that the coaches were happy to see, was that he did feel comfortable back there, that the moment wasn't too big for him. Given it was an FCS team in Missouri State he was facing, I mean, you have to factor that in as well. But you like what you saw early, and I think today we're going to learn a lot more about how game-ready he is with a much tougher opponent in UTSA.
Jenni, I'm not going to say this is a direct comparison. I'm not going to say that UTSA, or Missouri State compares to Colorado. But what we do have here is 2 OSU quarterbacks who spent some time in mothballs. One of them was playing professional baseball, but hadn't, really played any football to speak of for quite a long time. We know what happened with Brandon Whedon. Is there a chance that we're looking at another case like that, another big, what they call arm talent, who can step in and really lead the Cowboys in and quarterback the kind of offense that Gundy optimally liked to play? Jenni, is there any chance you're muted? Can you hear me? Yeah. Let me try again.
Sorry.
There we go. Gotcha. Start again.
Okay. It's hard to go out and say that you're going to have a guy that's going to be the first team all-conference quarterback, and it's going to be, it's going to happen again. But I don't know. It doesn't seem too far-fetched when you see some of the skills that Dax Garman brought last week, as we just talked about, after 5 years sitting and not playing in live action. I mean, I think we saw him make some throws that you would think would have to be honed over time, and now he's got to do it consistently. But at least last week, what we saw was impressive. I mean, I think I don't know about Kyle, I don't know about John, but my feeling was that there was just a wow with the way that he commanded things. The poise with which he looked to play, all of that really bodes well moving forward. Again, I don't know if I'd say he's going to be a first-team all-conference player, but he seems to have some of those same skills. So, and in this offense, we know what that can equate to. It can mean big numbers. He's got the skill players around him to make it happen. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out as the weeks go on.
Now, we tend to forget that Brandon Whedon's audition was sort of just a brief. A second half against Colorado. Zach came back. He played the rest of that season, quarterbacked the Cowboys to the Cotton Bowl. He was hurt, and there was a lot of folks who were sitting there, geez, would the Cowboys be better off with Whedon? It wasn't until the next season that Whedon really got his run. In this case, however, with J.W. Walsh injured, it looks like Garmin's going to get a pretty, prolonged audition as the Cowboys quarterback. What's the latest on J.W. Walsh and his health?
Like always, Gundy's playing it really close to the chest as far as what his specific status is. But all reports is that he's out indefinitely. So you're right. You figure this is the perfect opportunity for Garmin to get one non-conference, a little bit of a softer game out of the way. Gotta kind of get his legs under him, get a little bit more of a showcase of what he can do, and then in about a week and a half or so here, if he continues to be the starter. We'll see what he does in prime time against Texas Tech on Thursday night. I think that's going to be a real challenge and give us a real good idea of just where he is in this system and how much he can flourish with the arm strength that we've been talking about.
Jenni, John Helsley and Kyle talked about this week. This now really means that the next piece of intrigue is, of course, how does Dax Garman play when he's had a full week to prepare? How does he wear the starter's mantle? But also, does Mason Rudolph play tonight? What's your gut on what could we asked this question last week during the pregame hangout. Well, how many quarterbacks will we see for OSU? Well, how many quarterbacks will we see for OSU this very Saturday night?
You know, it's an interesting question, and you know, I was a little bit surprised as the week went on and we found out more about J.W. Walsh's injury, because they had to have some inkling that this was a fairly serious injury, regardless of what Mike Gundy said after the fact. They at least knew that there was a chance that this was going to require some surgery last week. I mean, they had to. So the fact that they didn't get Mason Rudolph in then is a little bit surprising to me. I thought they might go ahead and get him in because he clearly looks to me to be that second-team guy. I think you got to get him in there. I mean, at this point, you have to know that there's a risk out there that, you know, Dax Garman gets hurt in the second quarter against Baylor, Texas Tech. I mean, do you want those to be his first snaps, or would you prefer him to play some snaps against UTSA? I think you.
What about it, Kyle? We see Mason Rudolph tonight?
You know, I think I agree with Jenny. I think the smart technical move here, moving forward, especially if Walsh is going to be out for the long term, is to get Mason Rudolph some snaps. You know, I don't think Gundy wants to earn that red shirt unless he absolutely has to, but this might be a case where he does, you know, because you want two guys who have been in the spotlight and know how this offense runs to get out there and get that experience. So I think a lot of that depends on J.W. Walsh's status, what Gundy actually thinks about his possible return this year. But I think there's a pretty good chance we could see Rudolph late in the game, especially if OSU is able to build a little bit of a lead.
Okay, Kyle, let me get you out of here on this. It looks like we lost Jenny, who's making her way to the stadium. But, you know, Jenny wrote about upset, the upset credentials of UTSA, and really the last thing on UTSA's card to punch, that they really needed a win like an OSU game like this. Nobody really felt like the upset level should be set very high for Oklahoma State. But what would have to happen for OSU to lose this game tonight?
You know, I think that's a good question. I think if OSU were to lose, the youth on this team has to really show those mistakes that we're talking about. So can the offensive line keep Garmin safe? Are they able to protect against the blitz packages? Is Garmin going to be accurate as we saw last week? You know, are guys going to stay healthy? Is this defense going to step it up a little bit?
We should be inserting it because I put it on the music.
Questions going in because there are so many young guys on this team that you never really know what you're going to get. But we've seen signs of how good they can be. But as far as consistency is concerned, we'll have to just kind of wait and see.
Jenny, is there an upset prescription available to UTSA tonight?
Absolutely. I mean, what they did to Houston, while it now doesn't look quite so good, it's still a pretty impressive win. And then, you know, to push Arizona to the end, I think is a sign that this is a team that is going to be in it until the end. You know, and if you let them hang around, I think that gets their confidence going. So I think OSU is going to have to play well. I mean, they can't turn it over, which really hasn't been a problem to this point. So they're going to need to make sure they take care of the ball. You know, that's going to be a key. And then I think if they do, you know, just one of the problems we did see last week was red zone efficiency when it comes to scoring touchdowns. OSU was 6 of 6 in the red zone a week ago, but they kicked 4 goals instead of scoring touchdowns on some of those drives. So they got to punch it in there when they get a chance down in the red zone.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Last thing, Kyle, can you spin your camera around and show me what kind of uniforms the Cowboys are wearing tonight? Do you see them out there yet?
They're not out there yet. We got UTSA warming up, if you guys can see out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no sign of uniforms quite yet. If I'm looking down there, though, it looks like we do have some Cowboys to the west end zone. It looks like we see some black pants, so it looks like we got black bottoms, if that's a sign of anything else.
I'm rooting for the Pistol Pete helmets, personally. Yeah, if you're not gonna go all black, go with the Pistol Pete helmets, I say.
Are you talking about the Phantom Pete? Are you a fan of the Phantom Pete?
I like the big one, you know, the big Pistol Pete
image
on the side. Yeah,
that'd
be fun.
It's a good
look. It is a good look. Boise State. It recalls Boise State. Hey, listen, that's all for this OSU pregame hangout, but you can stay with the best coverage team every day at News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman. Enjoy the game, Kyle.
Will do.